So one day he walks in the door. There are more than $1 million in receivables,
Wow.
over $1 million right now.
Wow, that's incredible.
And he doesn't have enough cash in the bank to pay the fuel bill for his truck so that they can get on the road.
Wow.
Solve that problem. And my thing is sometimes you got to get hit between the eyes with the 2x4 before you pay attention.
You're listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with your host, Michael Palmer. Listen each week as inspiring guests share their secrets of success to help you increase your confidence, work smarter, and build a business you love. This episode of The Successful Bookkeeper is brought to you by PureBookkeeping.com, the proven system to grow your bookkeeping business.
Welcome back to the Successful Bookkeeper Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Palmer, and today's show is going to be a fun one. Our guest is a Georgia-based business advisor and serial entrepreneur, Ruth King. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Michael. I'm thrilled to be here.
Well, it's great to have you, and I love serial and I love entrepreneurs, so this is going to be great. With that, let's hear your career journey leading up to this point and what you're doing with your life today.
Well, I actually started business when I was a kid. I don't count that as part of the serial piece of it, but I've always had businesses. I had babysitting businesses, and we sold flowers out of our garden. We did crazy things when we were kids to make money, and I've always known that was going to have a business. So it went from there in terms of going to school. I ended up being a chemical engineer by training, and found out that there was not a single business class in the college I was at. And so I went out, got in the real world, went back to school, got my MBA, and found out that I was really, really good at numbers and really, really good at explaining numbers. And that's where all of the things have actually stemmed from there.
Wow. And so you went to numbers, you discovered numbers. Where did the numbers lead you?
They led me into working with small businesses since probably 1987 and helping them with the financial side of their business, understanding what a P&L was, what the balance sheet was, doing their budgets, looking at the analysis. And, all of it was done by hand. In the beginning, we didn't even have Excel for all intents and purposes.
Wow.
Once we had, Lotus 1, 2, 3 first, and then Excel came along, and that made life a lot easier because then you could really start graphing things quickly. And people learn by graphs. They don't necessarily learn by a table of numbers or what they're seeing on a P&L and a balance sheet. And that's the progression. And then the AI piece of it came up a couple of years ago so that it all gets automated and I don't have to do the work anymore. AI will tell you if your statements are wrong. AI will tell you what the graphs are saying and where you need to go look if they're not going in the right direction.
Yes, tells a wonderful story about it. And when that started to happen, I'm curious now, so you've been doing this for a very long time before there was even spreadsheets, and now there's AI. What have been some of your highs and lows, I guess, of working with small business owners or in discoveries, if you will?
The highs have been when the light bulb goes on and they go from, I don't understand a single thing about what's on my P&L or a balance sheet. All I do is I look at the bottom line and I made a profit or a loss, but I don't know how I got there, to really being able to understand, okay, this is what's going on. We're having a collection problem. We're having, inventory problems. We're having cash flow problems, and being able to spot those potential problems before they become major crises. So that's some of the highs. I mean, that's the fun part. And then they're doing profitably well enough and we can help them get profitably well enough. And they've sold their businesses for tens of millions of dollars. That's the fun part.
Yeah.
That's the real fun part. The lows, oh gosh. Clients who don't listen and do stupid stuff. I generally now to the point where I say bye. From an AI perspective, it was incredibly hard to create the rules. Get what was in my head out onto paper. It's almost like, I don't know whether any of the audience is Star Trek fans, but I grew up with Star Trek. Mm-hmm. And, when Spock needed something out of Kirk's head, he just went like this and he did a mind meld. That's what I would have preferred.
Hmm.
Just do a mind meld what's in my head into the rules. Didn't happen that way.
Yes, yes. Well, being a Star Trek fan, I am as well. Probably have lots in common there. But you would have loved AI because it's very similar to the computer that always exists and helps them with knowledge and giving them data and information. So that was right up your alley. Did you find you were like an early adopter? How did you discover AI? I'd love to hear about that.
Yeah, the AI was fun. I mean, I have no idea where it's going to go from here. I really and truly don't. Um, if we think about it, I've gone from a slide rule to AI in 40 years?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. So I'm not sure what the next 40 are going to bring us, but I'm sure it'll be amazing also.
That's right. That's right. And people often say as well that they look in the rearview mirror around progress, where progress is we have no idea because progress can exponentially grow. So yes, it is one of those who knows how long. Like I was having a conversation with someone just recently around, just some basic stuff around AI and its uses, and in every single industry, a big one like you're saying today, which is taking large amounts of information and making sense of that information. Well, there's a lot of areas from healthcare to environment to technology where there's lots of data and information that everybody's been collecting for years and years and years, but they're like no computer, no human has the capacity to make sense of it because it's so huge. So things like that could be just mind-boggling in terms of what it can bring to the world.
Yeah, I mean, if we look at it just from a bookkeeping standpoint, I mean, right now, just sending a client a P&L on the balance sheet doesn't really help them anymore.
That's right.
Because it's not only what's going on in that particular month, it's really what the trends are. It's really looking at, okay, this is where we were this month, this is where we were the month before. We can start projecting out. And the reality of it is that you can't do it without doing some sort of, you can. But the graphical presentation of this actually makes it a lot easier, simply because people get graphs, they don't get tables of data.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. It's going to change things dramatically. Now, I was on your site. I saw an MSNBC video about tips on how business owners can deal with employees who are trying to steal from their businesses. And like how often, how common is this? I mean, we've had guests on the show before that deal with this, but I would be really interested to get your take on it.
If you don't pay attention, you're going to be stolen from. I mean, I can give you the statistics from all the associations that say that more than 75% of all small businesses are going to get stolen from at some point in time. But those who don't pay attention are the ones who are going to get stolen from. Ones who don't put the processes in place are the one who's going to get stolen from. I mean, the easiest thing is to look at your checkbook online every single day. I mean, that's the easiest thing to do. You're going to see what's going in, you're going to see what's going out. And, it's not only us internally stealing anymore. I had one of my clients who assigned this, and I use this in quotes, to his bookkeeper. And so he went on every day and looked at the bank statements, and he saw two little amounts one day, like the 22 cents and the 75 cents or thereabouts when somebody's starting a new account, just to make sure that it's a valid account. And he thought, the owner's just starting an account. We're really busy. He forgot to tell me about it. So the next day, the bank calls and says, did you authorize two $25,000 withdrawals? I was like, no. So it wasn't somebody internally trying to steal from them. Somebody outside of their company, maybe outside the U.S., knew what the bank routing number was and did a random number generator to find accounts that were live. Now, had they not done this, he would have been out 50 grand.
Wow.
Which is not exactly a good thing. So any business, never mind large or small. So the thing is, look at your bank statements every day. If something's weird, call the bank. And, it's a real pain in the butt to close down an account, but it's even worse to lose 50 grand.
Yes, absolutely. It seems to be happening more and more all the time. And I mean, I know I mean, I'm in this business, but I've met a lot of people where family, friends that work for the business have stolen. Recently, a good friend of mine, it was almost $500,000 over like 8 years. False vendors, all sorts of stuff. And this particular person just did not like the numbers. That wasn't her part of the business at all. And she hired this person who was a friend and a bookkeeper, not a bookkeeper by trade, but like someone who could do it, and or by profession or experience, but someone who could do it. And it was like, for her, it was like a happy place, right? Yay, someone's going to take this awful thing that I don't like to do and take it over. And so she paid zero attention to it. And it's just sort of dripped away. And she closed down portions of her business. Like she had different arms, like a retail arm, like a services arm, like all these like things that were like, this thing's not profitable. We're losing money. We got to get rid of this. And it turned out all those, they were all extremely profitable. And this person was taking all the money, which is
there's
crazy.
two things with that. Number one, you never abdicate the overall financial responsibility for your company. It is not hard to learn this piece of it. The books that I've written have been they're in English. They're not in accounting Bible, and you can get it. Number two is the job of a good embezzler is to become the trusted bookkeeper.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
Never, ever, ever trust your bookkeeper. Totally.
Right.
And I've had mother-in-law steal. I've had sisters and brothers steal. Just like this good friend. You never think that they're going to steal from you, and they do.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, our listeners right now are probably getting uncomfortable because they are the bookkeeper. And so what's interesting though is the many of them, and I would say all of them right now listening, because they're the great bookkeepers, of course, they're like, don't give me those account numbers, or passwords or access. That would be for a business owner that might be listening. It is just like this one I explained. It's like giving everything, the keys to the kingdom, and not paying any attention. Very, very risky. Now, what are some other tips? So this is common that in your experience. What are some tips for our listener who are bookkeepers and dealing with this? What's some tips to help avoid this, to make sure that they protect their business owners or be able to identify it, or flags, those sorts of things?
Number one, I would never, ever, ever, if I were a bookkeeper, have check signing authority for any check. Now, there are other ways, ACHs and stuff like that, but let's assume that the company gets into a cash flow problem and doesn't pay payroll taxes for whatever reason. If you have check signing authority, the IRS can come after you. And you as a bookkeeper don't want the IRS in your business. So number one, you don't sign checks. You don't have check signing authority. You figure out a way if somebody's going to be, out of town for an extended period of time or something along those lines, and get somebody else. We had a situation with one of my clients, and the second thing is no signature stamps, because that also can get you in trouble. And so the bookkeeper said, I want the signature stamp. You're going out of town. And I had just started working with this client, and he goes, no. And she goes, don't you trust me? And he goes, that's not the point. So what we ended up doing is he gave the signature stamp to his daughter. And the bookkeeper had to explain to his daughter why she needed the signature stamp, if she needed it while he was gone. And then she would bring it in, she'd use the signature stamp, and she would take it and put it back. She never needed it. And I don't know, that started the split between the two of them, and she's no longer there. But my thing is no signature stamps, no signing of checks, those two things. The third thing is to put together a weekly cash flow report with an age payables and age receivables behind it, and let the owners decide what they want paid the next week, what collection calls they want made the next week, and that type of thing. This way, you're putting the owner on notice about what's coming in and what's going out in his business or her business. Those are the basic things to protect you, all right? The other thing is, if your owners are smart, they give you access to view your bank accounts but not to take money out or something along those lines and things like that. Banks have become very sophisticated, and you can say, okay, you can look at the accounts. You may be able to make ACH payments, that type of thing. But, it'll say you can do this, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this. And it protects the bookkeeper. It protects the owner. It protects both. So if I were a bookkeeper, there is no way in God's green earth I would want any sort of responsibility for cash. None. Zero. Nada. And that's your first step.
Okay. Those are good ones. Now, you did mention your books that you've written about these. Maybe let's spend a little bit of time there. Tell us about the books you've written. You've written a few of them.
All right. So I've actually written 6 books. They're all on Amazon. They're all on Audible. They're all electronically on Kindle. So the one that's probably, the 3 that are probably most appropriate for the bookkeepers are The Courage to be Profitable, which explains P&Ls and balance sheets in English. It's all story-driven. And then I wrote one called Profit or Wealth, which are the rules of profit and the rules of wealth. And then I wrote one that just came out last fall, which is called The 101 Dumb Financial Mistakes Business Owners Make and How to Avoid Them.
Wow.
So those would be the 3 that would be appropriate for the listeners from there. But, the fun part about it is I have a lot of CPAs who give The Courage to be Profitable to their clients because they're sick and tired of explaining what a P&L is, what a balance sheet is, what the ratios are. Here, read this book. You'll get it.
Yes. Beautiful. That's fantastic. Well, I'm sure our listener is feeling that pain as well and can provide your books, read them first, and then provide your books as ways to educate their clients.
Yep.
It's interesting. You've written 6 books. What has you find the new information to provide back to these books? Like, that's a lot of information in 6 books. I'd love to know what your inspiration comes from, and do you have another book cooking?
Well, I love to write, number one. I've been writing since I've been in 7th grade, I think it was. And I found that I'm one person, me, and I can only impact so many people, either through individual consulting or through speeches or through workshops and stuff like that. The books have given me an audience with business owners who I can't one-on-one touch, and so I get a lot of emails loved your book. This is what happened. I mean, one of my favorite quotes is, I spent $15 on The Courage to be Profitable and saved 20 grand. I mean,
Wow.
Okay, I did my job. I didn't
Yes.
know who this person was, at all, had never worked with that person or anything like that. Came out of the blue. So, I know since that came, other people have read the books, implemented some of the things, and are, more profitable, building wealth, making significant impacts on their lives and the lives of their employees, which is, what I do.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I'd love to hear any other favorite stories for you over your career journey in terms of the difference that they experience, or the things where they didn't listen and went the other way.
Yeah. There is one of the ratios that we do is accounts receivable days, i.e., how many days is it from the time you send out an invoice to the time you get paid? All right. So I'm working with the client, and his receivable days are going up, and they're going up, and they're going up, and they're going up. He's not paying attention to collecting his bills. He's just not doing it. And I'm like, you got to pay attention. You got to start collecting. You're going to have a cash flow problem, et cetera. So one day he walks in the door. There are more than $1 million in receivables.
Wow.
Over $1 million right now.
Wow, that's incredible.
And he doesn't have enough cash in the bank to pay the fuel bill for his truck so that they can get on the road.
Wow.
Solve that problem. My thing is, sometimes you got to get hit between the eyes with a 2x4 before you pay attention. This
Yeah.
was one of those cases.
Yeah.
It's so much better not to have that happen. However, sometimes it has to.
So how did this person get into this situation? What is it? Is it a mental issue, like in terms of their mindset around the receivables, or how do
No,
they?
I'm too busy.
I'm too
My
busy.
bookkeeper's too busy.
Yeah.
We're billing. That's all we can do.
Yes.
All right. It's not only the billing, it's the collecting of the bills. So
Yes.
they were really, really busy. And they were, they were spending the time to get the bills out, but they weren't spending the time to collect from the companies who they sent bills to. And, there's some people, unless you call them and harass them, they're not going to pay the bills.
That's right. It's one of those things.
And it got worse and it got worse. They were really, 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 really busy. All right. So I don't have time to collect. My bookkeeper doesn't have time to collect. And he watched the numbers go up
Yeah.
in one ear out the other until something like this happened. Now, from that point on, resolve the crisis. They look at the weekly cash flow report, and if anything's getting past 60 days, phone calls get made.
That's right. It's a system. It's now, people can, like you say, with the 2x4, once the 2x4 comes in, it's like, oh, we need a system around this. So you follow your ratio, you look at the numbers, and you do something about it. And I imagine that's made a massive difference for his business.
Yeah, he actually ended up being one of my really cool success stories. I started working with them when they were about $750,000 in revenue. Had just bought the business from the former owner, their boss. And 16 years later, they sold it for $9 million in cash and walked away.
Wow.
That was pretty good.
That's amazing. Amazing. And what do you think were some of the key things that you helped them do that enabled them to grow like that and have a business worth $9 million?
Well, once we got, started growing, we always looked at profitability in terms of they generated revenue by what's called billable hours. If they didn't bill a client for an hour of one of their field employees' work, they didn't get revenue. So we always looked at their net profit per hour. If you're a restaurant, you're going to look at it net profit for meals served. Jim will look at it net profit per member. A tire store, net profit per tire, stuff like that. So we always knew pricing wise, we always knew what their net profit for every unit of revenue, i.e. a billable hour they had. And we made sure that that was consistent or going up. But we literally proved the increasing profitability by doing the graphs, back then, and a lot of it was still manual.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't, electronic like it is today.
Right.
And so, but we proved it, and we proved that, and we made sure it was profitable. We made sure the guys were productive. And when we started seeing things going the wrong way, other than the AR thing, they started really paying attention.
It's fantastic. It's exciting. A great success story. And on that note, our listener is definitely wanting to be an advocate of the work that you're talking about today, which is advisory, helping their clients understand the numbers and make decisions that get them to the $9 million exit, right? Or whatever the case may be in each scenario. You have 14 critical trend analysis. Help us understand what those are.
All right. So I'm going to divide them into P&L trend analysis and balance sheet trend analysis. All right. Is that okay?
You bet.
All right. So the P&L trend analysis, there's one that I call overall, and we do it from a monthly basis and a trailing basis. And to me, the trailing is more important on the long term because you're looking at a year's worth of data a month at a time. So there's an overall P&L trailing graph, which looks at revenue, gross profit, overhead, and net operating profit. There's a gross margin monthly and trailing data. There's the net profit per unit, and I just explained what that was, monthly and trailing data. And there's something I call productivity, and that is for every dollar you take in the door, how much you're spending on payroll and payroll-related items like payroll taxes, unemployment, that kind of stuff. And so that's the one trend that is counterintuitive to the others because you always want your gross margin going up. You always want your revenue and profits going up. This one you want stable or going down because if your percentage is 50%, that means 50 cents of every dollar is going towards payroll and payroll taxes. And you want it, if it's 40%, that graph's going down, then it's only 40 cents for every dollar. And so that one's counterintuitive. So those are the four that I use for P&Ls. And then the balance sheet one is liquidity ratios, debt ratios, and usage ratios. Liquidity is current ratio, asset test or quick ratio, and then receivables to payables, both monthly and trailing. And then the debt ratios is total debt to equity, long-term debt to equity. And then the usage are inventory days and receivable days. So those are the ratios we look at every single month.
Okay. So these are reviewed,
And,
those
your
14 every
listeners
month.
can do this. It's not hard to do it. I mean, the AI does it for you now,
Yes.
which is cool.
Yes. And how would someone get the AI to do it for them?
The software that we wrote is financiallyfit.business. And so they can go on there and use it
Got
for
it.
their clients if they'd like. They need help. I teach a class on deep dive into financial analysis, which is a day of really digging into the ratios, what they mean, what happens, and where to look if they're not going in the right direction. All of that is also on the site. There's a lot of, if they're into reading, there's the manuals on there. If they're into watching, there's videos on there. And then when you do the analysis, my avatar comes up and goes, hey, you're
Beautiful.
doing great, or take a look at this.
Yes. Wonderful. So tell us about this software. You wrote this software. Give the name again was
Financiallyfit.business.
financiallyfit.business. You wrote this. It works with AI to come up with this. They input data. It comes out with a whole bunch of great information.
I didn't write it, okay? I'm the subject matter expert.
Got it.
I hired the team to write it. I am not a programmer. I am not an AI person in terms of being able to write the rules and make them work. But I know I'm the subject matter expert, so I
Got
can
it.
test everything and make sure it's right.
Got it.
All right,
Got
so
it.
let me clear that up.
No, I would have thought that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So basically what you'll just do is you'll upload financial statements, click a button.
Wow.
Literally,
Amazing.
that's it.
Amazing. So we'll have those links in the show notes. That sounds exciting. And I would imagine that learning about all those ratios, either through your books or through this program, one of our listeners, they're doing compliance work. If you have great numbers, I imagine those lead to great outcomes in terms of the AI. If you don't have good information coming in, it's probably bad information coming out. Am I right on that?
Yeah, garbage in is garbage out.
Yes.
I mean, that's really the situation. Now, the thing that your audience is going to have to pay attention to is sometimes they're going to have to do the same type of thing that I did with my client who wasn't paying attention to receivables. They might have to be doing these numbers with them, reviewing them every month, and going, hey. It might
bring out
take
the 2x4.
something like that before they pay attention. Hopefully it doesn't, but don't be surprised if it does, because a lot of times, it's like people don't pay attention to their diet until their doctor says they have diabetes.
That's right.
Yeah, same type of thing.
Yes.
They don't pay attention to financials until they have a cash flow problem, a major customer leaves, stuff like that, unfortunately.
That's right. No, for sure. It's like it's either the 2x4 or it's a lot of stories and preparing people with what's coming, right? And that's, I heard it from my son's coach, that how do you shape behavior? It's through stories. It's like connecting the dots for them through the stories. They're not going to see that. It's like skate faster or turn quicker or do these different. It's like if it's not, hey, why?
Yeah,
they
exactly.
have to say it's like pushing yourself a little bit now leads to a little bit more, gets you. So that's part of the role, I think, of the opportunity, I think, for the bookkeeper, our listener, is that to be able to be this person that can help show the future and outline what's going to happen and guide them to better outcomes, that's super valuable.
It's super valuable. And also, from what we're seeing, it also ties them to their client. Number one, their client sees more value. Number two, their client is less likely to say buy.
Mm-hmm.
Number three, their client is more likely to refer when they're getting really good advice and saying, okay, why don't you go look here, 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 and here? and see whether we can turn these ratios around. It's not the bookkeeper's responsibility to dig in and turn the ratios around. It's the bookkeeper's responsibility to say, go do this, go do this, go do this. And all of that info is in the software.
Completely. And great clients refer great clients. And so it's this repeating cycle that if you do this, it leads to a whole bunch of great things happening for the business. And not everyone's going to do this, right? That's the key thing,
that's
is that
true.
it's very rare that people go that extra distance. The same concept, right? It's like, just like the business owners aren't paying attention to certain things, so are our listeners, and some of them aren't going to pay attention to, hey, how can I leverage AI? How can, why is advisory so important? Or, I don't want to do it the new way that people are doing it. I'm going to do it to continue to just do it my way. Those have different outcomes. So this is a real opportunity for those that embrace it to build a real strong client base, drive value and income.
Well, the other thing that, we really didn't talk about is what's their exit plan?
Mm-hmm.
If their exit plan is to sell the practice, guess what? They have clients who are staying. They have clients who appreciate them. They have clients who they're providing great value to. And I would bet that a whole lot are not. So if an acquirer is looking at their company, their practice versus somebody else's, number one, they're going to get more for it. Number two, they're likely the one to be acquired rather than somebody else.
That's right.
And that's really the exit plan. And we don't really talk about that a whole lot, but, think 20 years down the road, 10 years down the road.
That's right. Just like the $9 million exit for the business, if they had a company that wasn't financially strong, you helped shepherd them through to a strong, really clear financial situation. Imagine, you do this kind of analytics all the time, every single month. You make you change things, you clean up all the messes, you make it all really, and you're making tons of profit. That's a desirable business that someone wants to buy. They don't want to buy a mess. They want to buy, they want to buy opportunity, right? They want to buy upside. They want to buy something that can give a quick return on their investment. So, we talk about it all the time. So having great systems and processes in place in your business, having your staff run by those systems and processes, doing value-added services like these, driving incredible value for your clients, you have an incredible business that people are going to want to buy and pay a lot of money for. Yeah. And that's a great way to exit. And you make a lot more money over the long run of even owning that business.
Yeah, the other thing that's really kind of cool, and it may or may not be appropriate for everybody who's listening, but if you also do the tax part of it, the thing that my clients absolutely hate is getting a big tax bill, for doing taxes. So what if you did all of this, you divided the tax bill, what you estimate it to be, by 12, and just added to the monthly fee, and then there's no surprises. Your business owner has an easy to budget expense. You have consistent cash flow, and everybody wins.
Yes. We definitely, it's one of those things that nobody likes a surprise bill, right? They like a surprise profit, and not a surprise bill.
No. What normally happens, especially with my what I call younger clients that I haven't been with a while, and we're turning them around from unprofitability to profitability. And when they're unprofitable, they're not paying a whole lot of taxes. The first year they get profitable, the tax bill is usually whoosh.
Yes.
And my answer to them is, would you prefer it the old way? Well, no.
Yes.
Pay your taxes.
Yes. That's one of those interesting ones, is that no one likes to pay the taxes, but if you don't have any taxes to pay, that's a worse scenario. So play the game of, I want to pay a heck of a lot of taxes, and you're probably going to end up with a lot more at the end of it. Yeah. So helping them manage that, understand it, see it coming, those are great opportunities to drive your own value, and which is great. You've got a lot of great things on. It's absolutely a pleasure having you. I'm going to order your books for sure and start listening. I like to do the Audible books, and this has been a real pleasure, Ruth. If there was anything else you wanted to share about where people could learn more about you, would love for you to do that.
First of all, thank you very much for having me again. Second is, don't be afraid to start talking to your clients about this. The books are a great way to start. If you want to start with financially fit business, that's fine. But literally, I mean, if you want to do some really cool stuff for your clients and provide value and advisory services and things along those lines, stick your toe in.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Have to do it. It's an absolute must do. If you're not on your way there, or if you're not already there, put your toe in this pool and come on in. It's lovely, lovely temperature, and going to
The light
provide
bulbs
lots of.
go on, and they love you for it.
Yeah, and it's an absolute must. The business owners need it. Like, imagine over your career, you've helped businesses make a lot more money, hire more staff, make those staff more money. Like, the ripple effect on it is tremendous. And all of that goes back to our communities, right? When small businesses are thriving, communities are thriving. And so I personally love that you're doing this work, and I'm just so honored to be able to help our audience do this great work. And with your help and many of the other industry thought leaders' help, we can help a lot more small businesses thrive and flourish. Yeah.
That's my goal in life, is help small business.
Beautiful. Well, this has been great. We'll have all the links, of course, and I really appreciate you being on the show.
Thanks, Michael, for having me. I appreciate it and hope that we've educated your audience.
The pleasure is all ours. And with that, we wrap another episode. But hold on, don't forget about the summit. It is coming up October 17th and 18th. There will be a whole lot of industry speakers, a whole lot of fellow bookkeeping business owners joining you. A great chat, watch amazing content, learn, plan, start to get ready for 2025. I can't believe I'm saying that. So don't forget, it's you can get your free ticket, or if you want to treat yourself, you can upgrade to either an all-access pass or a VIP pass. And I will see you all at the summit. And with that, we do finally wrap another episode of the Successful Bookkeeper podcast. To learn more about today's wonderful guest and to get access to all sorts of valuable free business building resources, you can go to thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Until next time, goodbye.
You've been listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with Michael Palmer. For more information and to download the resources mentioned in this episode, please visit us at thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Thank you for listening.